Well, you can notice from my location that this is not the traditional pew that the Pewside chats have been coming from. Instead, I chose to sit in one of our new pews. When you heard my sermon last 2 Sundays ago, I was talking about being a chaplain at CMC Main Hospital in Charlotte. And while there, I have learned that a pew doesn't necessarily mean inside of the church. Now, I grew up at All Saints. I was baptized at a Canuga All Saints retreat and have been going here ever since, except for the 4 years that I was in college and I didn't get to go here as much as I wanted. And so the last time I sat in a pew would probably be March, a pew at All Saints. And I remember growing up, and I would sit on the floor in front of the pew, and then I would use the pew to actually color. And with the way that our pews work, the crayons would always fall down into the center of the pew because of the angle. And so I relish those memories of sitting in a pew and just the moments that you could go into the sanctuary and just sit and contemplate in front of our beautiful stained glass and just sit in the pew and be. And with pandemic, I've actually been privileged with working here at All Saints and working at the hospital that has a chapel. I've been able to sit in a pew and be able to have those moments with God. And part of going to church for me is not just the liturgy, it's not just the music, it's the people, it's the community built around a building or a space. And one of the things that we've been testing here at All Saints is how can we bring that with social distancing, with the new guidelines, with making sure that everyone stays safe. And one of those ways has been happening at this location at Father Rogers' Tree. We've been testing out what we're calling Perch Church. It is a version of church that is a communal meal. Everyone brings their own bread and wine, and there's a blessing, but it's not communion. And there's music played from a Spotify playlist. And everyone is 6 feet apart. And this is one of the pews, but everyone brings their foldable lawn chair as their own pew now. And what we're trying to do is figure out how this can work. We've actually been testing it out in different locations across Cabarrus County to see how we can build lots of little perches. We're still in the testing phase of this program, but just like we did with the Journey with Jesus program, we are figuring out how we can use our beautiful 10-acre campus to the best of its ability, because we always knew that our church was always more than the building itself. And so we're trying to figure out how to do that. And one of the things that I really have been privileged to do and be a part of with Perch Church is figure out how we can bring that communal aspect back, and that almost somewhat in person, 6 feet apart in person, but in person nonetheless. And one of the parts that's unique about Perch Church is there's not a sermon. There's not one person preaching or sharing a message. Instead, what we've been testing out doing is we read the gospel passage, and then we have a set of questions. And then we break into socially distanced small groups. So 2 or 3 people get together and they pick some of the questions to talk about and what they come out about the passage. So in some ways, we're all preaching. We're all sharing our own part of the gospel passage that's important. And I think that's what's really valuable, and it's giving us a bigger opportunity to have with Perch Church, even with the social distancing and the self-isolation that's happening. And I very much value those times. And I'm thinking about new ways that new pews can be built. Not just the pews that the beautiful pews that we have inside our sanctuary, but pews across the county and across the Charlotte area that we've been using. As a chaplain, I've been building pews in patients' rooms. I'm not always able to sit inside patients' rooms, but I'm having that same moment that I talked about as a child, where you would sit and just reminisce, looking at the face of God in our beautiful stained glass. But instead, I'm finding that standing, leaning against walls, 6 feet apart from a patient, and seeing the face of God in that patient. I'm having that same reminiscing moment within a patient's room in a new pew that may not be one where you're sitting. So as we begin to roll out Perch Church, I will encourage you to find new ways, to find new pews and new versions of church across the county in new ways. Journey with Jesus is one of those ways. It's how we use our campus grounds to be more connected with God. And there's more ways to be more connected with God in new and creative ways that we may not have been able to explore if we were in the building. We're having a new opportunity to explore new ways to grow with God. And it's not something completely new. The disciples, when they were doing this, they didn't have buildings. They were literally walking on the way to Galilee. They were on roads. They were preaching on the side of roads, as Jesus did in the Gospels, and finding new ways to bring God into the world. And that's the opportunity we've been given. Perch Church is one of those ways that we're trying to build that community and bring God into a new way, which more information will be coming soon about what Perch Church will be for the rest of the county. And I'm excited to see what else we can do. And I encourage you again, where can you find a new pew in Cabarrus County?